Boy, I'm so proud of you in this film.
Thank you.
And I have a lot of questions on behalf of all of the women in the audience who will watch this film, because you kind of carry the weight of the female world on your shoulders in this film. Do you feel that?
I think it's important, because I think one thing that's different about this film from all the others is that it has a lot more appeal for women, both in the whole look of the film, because it's much more aesthetically pleasing, I think, with all the colors and the images, and it's just really beautiful to look at visually. And also the fact that the leader of the people, and kind of, you know, one of the heroes of the film, is a young woman, is, I think, really, really important to see for people. As a young person, she's just really, really smart and cautious and idealistic and a good person, and she's very maternal in her relationships and taking care of her people, and I think the feminine qualities that come out in her leadership are really, really cool for people to see.
I have my daughters are 9 and 11, and she is a kind person. Your character is a good-hearted person.
Yes, it's nice to see that, you know, it's probably a combination of her youthfulness and her femininity, that she doesn't want to get involved in war, and she really is trying to find a peaceful way out, but then she realizes that she's got to protect her people. You know, in the end, she inevitably has to get involved if she wants to save her people, and she eventually has to go among her people and be among them and work with them to accomplish their common goal.
I'm maybe assuming here, but at one point was there, man, I'm doing a Star Wars film for you?
There wasn't ever really that point for me, because it hasn't really been a huge part of my life until now, until I started working on the films. I grew up in a household where my dad's Israeli. I lived in Israel my first 3 years, and my mom's American, but she's not, you know, she's not a big movie person or anything. So it really never entered into our daily life at all. And of course, I mean, it's part of the culture, so I knew the basics of, you know, may the force be with you, you know, the buns of Princess Leia, Yoda, things like that.
You never confused it with Star Trek? Or?
Oh, I'm sure I did. I hadn't, you know, I was clueless before I got so involved in it. So it was kind of good for me, because it didn't intimidate me at all to be working on this film, and I didn't really realize the scope of the fandom until recently.
It is probably a little bit life-altering, I guess, in some sense. You know what I like about this film is a lot of the surge towards it is fan-driven.
Yeah.
It really is fan-driven by people who embrace this wholeheartely. It's kind of amazing.
It's really wonderful, and I think when people have passion and dedication to any art form, it's really, really important for the world, because the way that they love this movie really adds something to the film, and also I'm sure they get a lot out of the film too. And it really, I think, means a lot to people making films to see when people appreciate them so much. It really, it gives us a sort of meaning for our work.
I would imagine too, I'm assuming here also, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a different kind of acting sometimes when you're in such an ornate costume.
Right.
And you have to kind of hold back, I guess, emotionally, because your character has to.
Right. Well, as a queen, she doesn't wear her emotions, you know, on her outside, and it's a very different kind of role than any role that I've ever played. But it was really exciting to do something so different, you know, visually and acting wise.
Yeah, you get to look at yourself and go, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I guess all of us have a little Star Wars fanatic in us about whatever it is. Have you ever stood in line for anything, or have you ever like, is there a band you've ever wanted to see, or
I don't
somebody
really
you wanted to meet?
remember waiting. See, I hate to sound, you know, obnoxious about anything, but most of my, you know, teenage years, when you know, develop those kind of fanaticisms, I've spent, you know, being a somewhat known actress. So when I've been dying to see something, I've usually been able to, you know, get tickets through that. And I do have people that I love, and I've tried to get in backstage to see people, you know, at plays or concerts or things like that. So I do have, I mean, I have a big appreciation for artists, and I know what it's like to be on the other side of, you know, fandom.
Yeah. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Good
nice
work.
to see you too. Thank
Queen.
you so much.
Queenie. There you go.